The Vexari Imperium had conquered 17 star systems before encountering humanity. Their strategy never varied: swift orbital bombardment, systematic elimination of military assets, and the prompt subjugation of surviving populations. The Vexari, with their crystalline exoskeletons and cold calculation, considered this process not merely efficient but merciful. A quick death for some meant survival for most. Their philosophers called it compassionate inevitability. Commander Thosknal stood on the bridge of the subjugation vessel Indomitable Purpose, watching Earth's blue sphere rotate in the main view screen. His segmented limbs clicked against the polished obsidian floor as he paced. Primitive weapons. "Systems," reported Tactical Officer Merv Dex. "Nuclear capabilities, but no faster-than-light technology." "Standard resistance profile." Thosknal's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Begin the preparatory bombardment. Target their primary military installations." From orbit, the Vexari ships released their plasma weapons, streaks of purple light descending. Toward Earth's surface, the first salvo struck military bases in what humans called North America. The Vexari expected panic, disorganization, and eventual submission. They did not expect Gunnery Sergeant Royce Blackwood. Blackwood had been stationed at Camp Lejeune when the first attack came. A hardened Force Recon Marine with combat experience. In 3 conflicts, he survived the initial bombardment by pure luck. He'd been deep underground in the bunker systems, inspecting a weapons cache. The plasma strike that vaporized the command center missed him by 200 feet of concrete and steel. When he emerged into the smoldering ruins, Blackwood found only 13 survivors from a base of thousands. He gathered them silently, his weathered face betraying nothing of the rage building inside him. "We're at war," he told them simply, "and these bastards don't know the rules." Across the planet, similar scenes played out. The Vexari's precision strikes had been devastating, but incomplete. They had targeted command structures, communications arrays, and weapon caches, but they hadn't accounted for humanity's tenacity or its decentralized resistance capability. In Moscow, Colonel Volkov rallied the remnants of his Special Forces unit. In the mountains outside of Beijing, General Zhao organized survivors into guerrilla cells. In the Brazilian rainforest, Captain Nascimento gathered indigenous scouts and remaining military personnel. But it was Blackwood who made first contact with the enemy ground forces. The Vexari deployed their shock troops, bipedal soldiers with translucent carapaces housing swirling bioluminescent organs, to secure what remained of Washington, D.C. They moved with precision and confidence, having never encountered meaningful resistance after an orbital strike. Blackwood watched them through his scope from the ruins of the Lincoln Memorial. He studied their movements, noted their formation patterns, identified what appeared to be officers. Most importantly, he observed their arrogance, the casual way they exposed themselves, the minimal security perimeters, the absence of rearguard protection. "They've never fought humans before," he whispered to the young corporal beside him. "They don't know what we're capable of." As night fell, Blackwood led his small team in the first human counterattack of the war. They moved silently through the ruins, placing improvised explosives at strategic junctures. When the Vexari patrol passed through the kill zone, Blackwood gave the signal. The explosion shattered the alien formation. In the chaos that followed, the Marines struck with precision and ferocity that shocked the Vexari survivors. For creatures accustomed to domination, the experience of fear was foreign and disorienting. Only one alien was permitted to survive, deliberately wounded but alive. Blackwood ensured this survivor watched as he collected the alien weapons and technology from the fallen. "Send a message," he told the wounded Vexari, though he knew it couldn't understand his words. "Tell them humanity isn't like the others." The alien crawled back to its landing craft, dragging its shattered limbs across the rubble of what had once been the National Mall. In orbit, Commander Thosknal received the first troubling report of the invasion. The HFY War Council convened aboard the indomitable Purpose as disturbing reports flooded in from ground units across Earth. Commander Thosknal's crystalline carapace flushed dark purple with agitation as he addressed his officers. "These humans are problematic," he admitted. "They do not surrender when their command structure falls. They continue fighting as isolated units." Strategic Officer Pelkvern projected a holographic map showing HFY casualties. "We've lost 23 subjugation squads in the region called Afghanistan alone. The locals allied with military remnants are using the terrain against us. They're adapting to our weapons," added Science Officer Jen Cool. "Ground forces report humans wearing reflective materials that partially deflect our energy weapons. They're learning too quickly." What the HFY found most disturbing was not merely human resistance. All species resisted initially, but the methodology. Humans didn't attack in predictable waves. They struck and vanished. They laid traps. They sacrificed small units to preserve larger ones. Most confoundingly, they deliberately targeted HFY communication systems and officer castes. Indy, the ruins of Seoul, Blackwood had linked up with Major Kwan and her surviving Republic of Korea Marines. Together, they had developed new tactics against the HFY exoskeleton armor. Their joints, Blackwood demonstrated on a captured piece of alien technology, hit them where the plates connect, and they've got something like a central nervous system running along their backs. "See these light patterns? Take that out, and they drop instantly." Major Kwan nodded, her face scarred from a close encounter with HFY plasma fire. "We've noticed they don't secure their perimeters at night. They have poor low-light vision." "They've never needed it," Blackwood said. "They've never fought anyone who fought back effectively. We need to spread this information globally." Using salvaged alien communication technology and remaining human networks, Blackwood and other surviving military leaders established a decentralized resistance intelligence system. Knowledge spread rapidly. HFY vulnerabilities, effective. Weapons, tactical patterns. 3 weeks after the initial invasion, the HFY experienced their first major defeat in centuries. A landing force of 200 elite troops descended on what their intelligence indicated was an isolated human encampment in the Atlas Mountains. They found themselves caught in a carefully prepared ambush. The humans had deliberately leaked information, sacrificed communication security to create the impression of vulnerability. Not a single HFY survived, but humans captured their shuttle intact. When the recording of the ambush reached Commander Thosknal, he watched in disbelief as a human, later identified as Lieutenant Colonel Ekwensi of the Nigerian Special Forces, systematically executed HFY officers while leaving their subordinates alive but traumatized. "This species employs psychological warfare," Science Officer Jen Cool observed. "They're deliberately creating terror among our forces." Thosknal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. "Increase orbital bombardment. We must break their will." The HFY intensified their attacks from space, targeting population centers now instead of just military installations. They expected this escalation would force human surrender. Instead, it only radicalized the resistance. In the smoking crater that had once been downtown Toronto, Blackwood met with a coalition of surviving military leaders from 12 nations. Their faces were grim as they reviewed the holographic projections of HFY fleet positions. "We can't win a conventional war," admitted Admiral Ortega, formerly of the Spanish Navy. "But we don't need to. We just need one of their ships." Blackwood nodded, his weathered face illuminated by the blue glow of the hologram. "The one we captured. In Morocco gives us the entry codes. We just need a team crazy enough to try." "And then what?" asked Colonel Vikander of the Swedish Special Forces. "Then," Blackwood said, We teach them about war crimes. The captured Vexari shuttle rose silently from its hiding place in the Sardinian mountains, its crystalline engines pulsing with soft blue light. Inside, Blackwood led a multinational team of 20 specialist operators, each selected for a specific skill and their ability to function under extreme pressure. They had spent 3 weeks learning to operate the alien craft from the information extracted from captured Vexari soldiers. Remember, we look like maintenance crew according to their transponder codes, Blackwood reminded them. Once we dock, with the secondary vessel unwavering doctrine, we have approximately 12 minutes before authentication protocols require visual confirmation. Lieutenant Dvorak, a Czech demolitions expert, checked her improvised charges. Human explosives. Modified with Vexari technology. These should disrupt their internal systems without breaching the hull. We don't want to decompress before reaching the weapons control. The Vexari fleet had grown complacent in orbit. After 2 months of systematic bombardment, they believed human resistance was finally crumbling. Reports of counterattacks had diminished, and their ground forces encountered less coordinated opposition. What they didn't realize was that humanity was concentrating its efforts on this single operation. The shuttle docked smoothly with the unwavering doctrine, a mid-sized vessel responsible for coordinating bombardment of Earth's southern hemisphere. As the airlock cycled, Blackwood's team donned captured Vexari communication devices, crystalline implants that projected holographic disguises. "We move in twos," Blackwood ordered. "Remember your objectives." They split into 10 pairs each, with assigned targets throughout the massive ship. Blackwood and Master Sergeant Ibarra from the Nigerian Special Forces headed directly for the command center. The first Vexari they encountered barely had time to register confusion before Ibarra neutralized it with a modified electrical weapon that targeted the alien's neural pathways. The creature collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. "They really don't expect resistance up here," Ibarra whispered. "Overconfidence," Blackwood replied. "Best weapon we have." Across the ship, the other teams executed their missions with precision. The engine room, communication hub, and secondary weapon controls were simultaneously infiltrated. The synchronized attack caught the Vexari completely unprepared. Commander Thosknal was in the midst of ordering another bombardment sequence when the bridge doors hissed open. His compound eyes registered surprise as 2 apparent Vexari maintenance workers entered, and then horror as their holographic disguises flickered to reveal human forms. "What is the meaning?" he began, but Blackwood's modified plasma weapon had already fired, selectively targeting the lower-ranked Vexari on the bridge while deliberately sparing the commander. "Restrain him," Blackwood ordered, as the remaining bridge crew was neutralized. Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out. The humans had studied Vexari hierarchy markers and deliberately spared command-level personnel while eliminating others. Within 11 minutes, they had control of the vessel. Blackwood stood over the restrained Commander Thosknal, whose crystalline body pulsed with patterns of distress and confusion. "You don't understand what's happening, do you?" Blackwood said, knowing the Vexari commander had translation implants. "You thought we were just another species to subjugate. You thought bombarding our cities would break us." He activated the ship's communication system, linking to the Vexari command network. With methodical precision, the human teams positioned captured Vexari officers before transmission nodes throughout the ship. "This is what happens when you underestimate mankind," Blackwood continued, now broadcasting to the entire Vexari fleet. "We're not just fighting to survive, we're fighting for retribution." Across the ship, humans executed precisely half of the captured Vexari officers, always ensuring other officers watched. The systematic nature of the executions, the deliberate psychological warfare, sent shockwaves through the watching Vexari fleet. "We've studied your communication patterns," Blackwood told the horrified commander. "We know your species has no concept of what we call war crimes. You fight clean, predictable wars of conquest. But humans, we're messy, we're creative. And when you threaten our existence, there are no rules we won't break. He pointed to Earth below. You've been bombing our cities. Now we control one of your ships. Guess what happens next? The Vexari fleet commanders watched in horror as the unwavering doctrine turned its weapons not on Earth, but on its sister ships. Under human control, the vessel fired with precision at non-critical systems, weapons arrays, engine stabilizers, and communication hubs. The strikes were surgical, designed not to destroy but to cripple. "This is Staff Sergeant Royce Blackwood of Earth." The transmission echoed across the Vexari command frequency. "Consider this a practical demonstration of asymmetric warfare." On the bridge of the captured vessel, Blackwood stood surrounded by his team and their Vexari prisoners. The alien commander, Thosknal, watched with compound eyes dilated in what humans had learned was an expression of extreme distress. "You still don't understand what makes us different," Blackwood told him. "Your species conquers through overwhelming force. Humans, we specialize in the impossible." The unwavering doctrine continued its systematic attack on the fleet. When Vexari vessels attempted to return fire, they discovered their targeting systems compromised. Lieutenant Rashid, an Egyptian cyber warfare specialist, had infiltrated the fleet's network using access codes harvested from the captured ship. "Your entire approach to warfare is based on technological superiority and predictable enemy responses," Blackwood continued, ensuring the transmission reached every Vexari vessel. "But humans have been fighting asymmetric wars against superior forces for our entire history. It's practically our specialty." To demonstrate his point, Blackwood signaled to Major Kwan, who activated a series of timed explosives that human infiltration teams had planted on 5 other Vexari vessels during the confusion. The detonations were precisely calibrated, disabling but not destroying the ships. "We could have killed thousands of your soldiers," Blackwood explained to the captured commander. "Instead, we're demonstrating restraint, a concept your species needs to learn." On Earth, the coordinated human resistance launched the second phase of their plan. Using information gleaned from captured Vexari technology, they activated an improvised electromagnetic pulse weapon that temporarily disabled Vexari ground forces across 3 continents. In orbit, Blackwood directed the unwavering doctrine to a new position. "Your species bombards from orbit because it's safe, clean, and distant. Humans look our enemies in the eyes." He ordered the ship to minimum safe distance from the Vexari command vessel. "The indomitable purpose. Open a direct visual channel to their supreme commander," he ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing Supreme Commander Viscorn, whose dark, crystalline carapace reflected the emergency lighting of his damaged flagship. "You've lost control of this conflict," Blackwood stated without preamble. "But unlike your species, we're offering terms before we escalate further." "Your resistance is unprecedented," admitted Viscorn, his translator rendering his clicks and whistles into flat human speech. "But ultimately futile. Our empire spans 17 systems," Blackwood smiled grimly. "And yet a single planet has cost you more than all 17 combined. We've analyzed your ship's records. You've never encountered a species that continued fighting after military defeat. You've never faced an enemy that adapted to your technology. Within days, instead of generations," he gestured to the captured Vexari officers. "Most importantly, you've never experienced what humans call psychological warfare. We haven't just been fighting your soldiers. We've been studying how your species thinks, what motivates you, what frightens you." To prove his point, Blackwood nodded to Lieutenant Dvorak, who activated a device they had constructed from Vexari components. The crystalline mechanism projected a frequency that caused the captive aliens to convulse in obvious distress. "That's broadcasting to your entire fleet now," Blackwood explained. It targets your neural pathways, something we discovered by experimenting on your captured soldiers. The Supreme Commander's mandibles clicked rapidly. This violates all civilized protocols of warfare. Exactly, Blackwood replied. That's the lesson we're teaching you today. Humans don't follow your protocols when our extinction is at stake. We use every advantage, exploit every weakness, and cross every line. The Vexari Supreme Council had assembled for the first time in 3 centuries. 17 system governors joined Supreme Commander Visk Orn in the crystalline chamber aboard what remained of the flagship Indomitable Purpose. Their translucent bodies pulsed with patterns of distress and confusion as they reviewed the data from Earth. These humans have disabled 37% of our fleet without destroying a single vessel, the strategic minister reported. They've captured our technology, adapted it for their use, and turned our own systems against us. Most concerning, they've demonstrated knowledge of our neurological vulnerabilities that we didn't know existed. Visk Orn's carapace darkened with stress patterns. They fight without honor or predictability. They fight to win, corrected Science Minister Jen Kuhl. Our analysis suggests humans evolved as persistence predators with complex social structures. They combine strategic patience with tactical opportunism in ways we've never encountered. On the view screen, the human leader Blackwood waited for their response. Behind him stood representatives from different Earth militaries, a coalition of survivors from across their world. "We will hear your terms," Viscorn finally announced. Blackwood's weathered face showed no emotion as he activated a data transmission. First, immediate withdrawal of all Vexari forces from Earth and the Sol system. Second, reparation technology transfers for the damage you've caused. Third, recognition of humanity as a sovereign species with protected status in your records. Vexari Council members clicked their mandibles in agitation. These terms were unprecedented. No species had ever demanded reparations from the Imperium. And if we refuse, our system governor Pelkdorn. Blackwood's expression remained impassive. Then we continue your education in human warfare. We now control 7 of your vessels. We've decoded your communication protocols and navigation systems. We know the locations of your core worlds. He paused to let the implications sink in. More importantly, we've analyzed the psychological profiles of 17 species you've previously conquered. None of them share our adaptability or our willingness to use your weaknesses against you. The council chamber erupted in agitated clicking as the implications became clear. The humans weren't just negotiating their own survival, they were implicitly threatening to contact other subjugated species and teach them resistance techniques. Science Minister Jen Kuhl addressed her fellow council members. Our conquest protocol has remained unchanged for 9,000 cycles. It was designed for species that surrender when their military leadership is eliminated. Humans reorganize and intensify their resistance instead. Our models cannot predict their actions. After hours of deliberation, Supreme Commander Visk Orn faced the human delegation again. "We accept your terms with conditions. We require assurance that human expansion will not threaten Vexari interests." Blackwood nodded. "We'll establish boundaries. But understand this, any future aggression against Earth will be met with disproportionate response. We now understand your vulnerabilities better than you do." As the formal agreement was drafted, Admiral Ortega whispered to Blackwood, "Do you think they'll honor it?" "They will," Blackwood replied quietly. "Their species values predictability and structure. We've demonstrated we're dangerously unpredictable. That frightens them more than our weapons ever could." 1 week later, the Vexari fleet departed Earth orbit. Humanity began the slow process of rebuilding, armed now with alien technology and a newfound understanding of their place in the galaxy. In what remained of the United Nations headquarters in Geneva, Blackwood addressed the assembled leaders of Earth's surviving nations. The Vexari underestimated us because they'd never encountered a species that valued freedom more than survival, he explained. They didn't understand that humans fight hardest when victory seems impossible. They'd never learned that sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with superior technology, but the one with nothing left to lose. He projected a galactic map obtained from Vexari databases, showing 17 subjugated systems and hundreds more catalogued for future conquest. We've taught one alien empire about war crimes and human determination, Blackwood continued, but there are others out there. We need to prepare, not just by rebuilding our defenses, but by establishing contact with these other subjugated species, he smiled grimly. The Vexari Empire is about to discover that their greatest mistake wasn't attacking Earth. It was giving humans a reason to look to the stars with vengeance instead of wonder. As the assembly erupted in determined applause, Blackwood looked out at the representatives of humanity, scarred, diminished, but unbroken. The Vexari had arrived expecting an easy conquest and instead had awakened a sleeping giant. They had underestimated mankind's capacity for both cruelty and compassion, for brilliant adaptation and ruthless determination. Most fatally, they had failed to understand that humans didn't fight merely to survive. They fought to ensure such. Threats would never endanger their world again. The stars would never look the same to either species again.